Oh, we got a little business. You know what happens? Holiday hits, and some players are like, "Agent, get this done.
Please.
I got the fam coming up. Okay,
We'll have a good holiday.
yeah, I'm not planning on worrying about this for the next few months. Anyway, all of us together, Kratz, Braun, Todd, Father in the middle. So you want to get right to it because we got a lot of news. We had a trade the other day, but I want to start with the big stuff, the heavy hitting money. Yeah?
Cash.
Okay, let's
Cash.
do it. Let's charge the damn mound.
He's charging the mound.
Cash is correct, Erik Kratz. Your thoughts on 3 years, $63 million for Yusei Kukuchi, who had a 4.75 ERA until he was traded to the Houston Astros, who said, "We're going to show you how to pitch better." And he did with Houston. He was brilliant with Houston, and now the Angels pick him up, and they're buying what he's selling in that stretch with the Astros.
Probably what the Astros were buying that he was doing while he was in Toronto and just not getting the most of it. It's not like they were like, here, we're going to have you throw a new pitch and you have to try this out. Like they were like, no, we want you to bang whatever that thing was that you were throwing more, and we want you to throw the four-seamer and the curveball hook, John. And guess who, like we just talked with Perry, Angels GM 2 weeks ago, and he talked about we need to upgrade not just our offense, our slug, but also our pitching. So they upgraded the slug with Jorge Soler, pretty much the most slug probably available out there under Juan Soto. And then you sit there and you go, okay, we'll get some starting pitching. This dude punches out the world, but you have to get the most out of him. Who else did they hire? Sal Fasano as assistant pitching coach.
Love that fire. Love that hire.
I mean, I feel like you're just going into it saying this is where the direction we're going, and we're going to make the moves before everybody else does. And it's the Braves West. It's the Braves West. And great for Perry Managia for doing this. Great for your boy, Artie Moreno, for still opening up the purse strings for a pitcher this time, though. For a pitcher. The man spends money, maybe not in the right spot, but he spent it.
On a pitcher, right?
On a pitcher.
They did it on Tyler Anderson a couple years ago as well, who's still there. This is a little bit more. This isn't Max Fried, Corbin Burns, Blake Snell. Although stuff-wise, Kikuchi is up there with anybody in baseball. He just hasn't had the command control and the pitch mix that has made him great really over a consistent period. And we've seen flashes. Is that a good way to describe him? When you see his stuff, you're like, oh, that's number one stuff. But it's often produced very mixed results. Sometimes he looks like a 1, sometimes he looks like a 5.
No, I agree totally. And I think the biggest thing for him is what he did with the Astros, coming out and just absolutely dominating, like you said. And this is like the Angels. If you're talking about who's winning the offseason race now, it's got to be the Angels. I mean, this is incredible if you want to choose. We didn't see this coming. I don't think anybody did. But at the same time, this is what happens, Kratz, as you know. Angels say, hey, listen, let's make this happen. Blah, blah, blah. They go back and forth 3 years, 63. All right, we'll get back to you. They call other organizations. Anybody can meet this price or anybody want Kikuchi. Bing, bang, boom. 90% of the time, that's what usually happens. Or maybe they said, I want to make this deal happen. What is it going to take? Okay. And God, the Angels, I give them so much credit, even though they think we never give them credit. I give the Angels credit here, man. This is an absolute power move. It's a great move. And now you see guys go, you think about this. I don't know why I think about it. Why can't the Giants do something like this? Like they never.
They can.
No, I know, but it seems like
last year.
but it just seems like it's few and far between, in my opinion. Like they could be the dominant National League team of the West, or that team of the West that can not dominant, but one of the top dogs at least.
Sure.
But it just seems like they're in the back burner as always. But for the Angels, I give them credit. And first and foremost, I got to move you down just a little bit. You're too tall.
Yeah.
Anyway, now we're good. So now we're actually on my level. Hey, stop it, man. Look at this. King Kong Bundy over here.
He's going to be King Kong even if you put him on the ground. He's still going to
What
figure out a way to get taller.
What do the Angels kind of lack? The Angels aren't like elite defense team.
Yeah.
Kikuchi doesn't need elite defense. He's going to give up fly balls that become homers. But at night in Anaheim, the ball doesn't travel real well, so that's okay. But he's punching out. He's punching tickets.
Yeah, he is.
He went over 200 punch-outs for the first time in his career last year.
That's awesome.
Good for them.
It's a great – I think it's a good deal. I think it's a good deal, man.
Yeah.
$21 million a year. Math, that was just quick, really.
Can't be done. Can't be done.
Yeah.
They hammered the slider, though, when he was with Houston.
Is that what it was, not the curveball?
No.
They
it was
banged the
a little
curveball.
less fastball and more of it up in the zone,
Yep.
which he's like, I've been told that. But sometimes someone else tells you that, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
Because he talked about it when he went to Houston.
Can we go over who their signings are? Are we going to go over that?
Yeah, we can go over that.
I'm absolutely in awe. I really like this. Who they've signed. If we can get a picture up there, the additions so far are some names. Okay, there's some older guys, but these guys are well equipped and they've been playing this game. I mean, Travis Darno, people don't understand, and we've talked about him before. The dude is solid. You heard Chris Sale talk about him, man, how much he's going to miss him and what he did for the clubhouse. This guy's a beast. I played with him with the Mets. He was absolute stud. He spoke softly, but he carried a kind of a big stick, if you want that old lingo that we talk about. This guy is still doing it, and he just plays the game the right way. And looking at these, Kyle Hendricks, I mean, he's no slouch. Travis Darno, Kevin Newman, he can play infield and outfield if you need him. Soler can play outfield, and he can do, not the best outfielder, but he can DH with the best of them. So Angels are winning their offseason. I'm going to say it again. Number one right now. I don't know if it'll end that way, but good for them. They're not wasting any time, and this is what I want to see from these organizations, bro. Why dilly-dally on some stuff? Spend some nickels and dimes and get them. Come on, bro. Why?
$21 million a year. He's 33 years old. I know not the upper tier. They're in a different world. But the second tier, which to me are guys like Flaherty, Evaldi, Sean Manaea, Luis Severino, Pivetta. Buehler might be a little different. I don't know if he's going to look for maybe a pillow deal. But the guys I just mentioned, they're looking at that 21 mil per year, and they're like, okay, we're playing that in that qualifying offer.
It's great.
Kind of money. That was what the qualifying offer was, 21 mil. So Kikuchi found that for 3 seasons.
And he got 2 more after it. No, that might have been a talking point.
That's a comp.
Yeah.
I'll give you another comp.
Talk to me.
I mean, he's a better pitcher, but Pablo Lopez signed an extension with the team, and he's got 3 years left. Aaron Gleeman pointed this out, $64.5 million, so about the same range as this current deal.
That's with
of what's left for Lopez. It was earlier money to it, but that's what's left. So you're trying to make comps like, hey, right. Kikuchi's as good as this guy this year, right? And now there's going to be other free agents that are going to try and use that money to say, hey, I'm worth 20 plus per year. And most of those free agents are probably going to get it. It's a matter of how many years.
Yeah, exactly.
But, okay. So for the record, me too. I like this deal. I like Kikuchi. The upside is a 1 if he can maintain what he did. So you need the right people behind him to keep pushing him to do what was working. But where do we rank the Angels in the AL West?
They're still battling out for the ATHs. The Athletics and them, and I think
at the bottom.
Are at the bottom.
Mariners better.
100%.
Astros
200%.
Better. Rangers better. So it's the Athletics and the Angels. So for all of this talk, hey, we like these guys that they've brought in. I agree. What do they need to do to get to that level? And can they get to that level in 25, or is this more of a build to 26?
I'm not sure what they're trying to do here.
They have
you just
to
said
bank
you loved it.
I love what they're doing, but
he loves the early moves. He loves cashing the table with the turkey.
Without a doubt. No, you say it's going to be eating good this Thanksgiving. Maybe 2 or 3 turkeys in that mug. You know what I mean? That John, like you said, extra stuffing.
What we're looking for
Greens.
from this team is
sweet potatoes.
You have to get your Neto. Neto has to take the next step.
He's coming off a pretty significant surgery.
He's probably not going to start the season.
No, shoulder
on the active roster. Then you're going to have to see more out of Shannonwell. Now, Shannonwell's more of like your Mark Grace type. Put the ball in play, that kind of thing, and you're going to have a full year of Mike Trout. Anytime you have an MVP on your team, and I believe he can still be at MVP status, he has to play the entire season. You look at what the teams that had the MVPs of this year did. They had pieces around them, but there's too many things up in the air for the Angels. I like their starting rotation. It's not elite. I like their bats, but you're talking about having essentially 3. Rengifo had a career year last year, faded a little bit. To me, Rengifo has to have the same type of year. Neto has to come back 100% healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Shannonwell has to be a 300 type of hitter. Those are all things, too many things like up in the air, like you're juggling too many balls and you drop one, all of a sudden. So is there a piece out there that says, wow, the Angels are doing it? Is there a guy that can really just hit and push this team to the next future? And Juan Soto's not happening.
Damn it. How did you know I was going to say that? Don't do that again. This is the Kansas City Royals of the West. Watch out.
For me, it's Max Fried, but I don't know if they're going to play ball with Max. To me, signing Kikuchi probably tells you that they're not going to go for one of those big three. I didn't expect Burns.
Did they overpay for Kikuchi here, or is that about right? What do you guys think?
I think that's about right.
If they gave him 4 years with maybe a little less annually, maybe it would have been overpay.
Okay.
I love it. Nobody's in that whole group you said, nobody's better than Pablo Lopez. Pablo Lopez is doing that, but that's an old contract.
And it's a team friendly because it was on an extension.
Like
he didn't get the free agency.
Like I thought Jack Flaherty was a 20 to 23 million a year for 4 years. This might push Jack Flaherty to 5 years. That might be over. I didn't see Jack Flaherty going 100. But if Kikuchi's getting 33, I mean, he's 33 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Flaherty's going to be 30 at the start of next season?
No, at the end of next season.
At the end of next season. So you're talking about 4 years younger.
Yeah.
And Kikuchi's getting 3. Kikuchi maybe has a little bit more of a track record, but they've both been hurt. Flaherty's had a better career so far. It's been kind of up and down. I mean, based on numbers, based on – I should check out the ERA plus. Okay. It's up and down. It's up. Flaherty's up and down. But his platform year tells me he might get 100. If he's getting 20-plus a year, which I don't see how he gets under 20-plus a year, he might get a 5-year deal.
Yeah, on the age, you're right. I mean, he's young enough to be able to withstand, that kind of market if Kikuchi's playing ball here. But as much as that's setting the market, every pitcher that I just mentioned in the mid-tier can't just go to every team and say, let's take that number and let's divide it over more years since I'm younger. You'll end up with a few guys that are signing, March 25th if everybody plays that game. Because the biggest thing that you don't know about too is always medicals, because teams get to look at that and we don't. And so that also holds things back a lot in my mind. You disagree?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think some teams start to it picks up steam and they're all like, okay, we don't trust this for 5. We trust this for 3.
What pitcher medicals?
They're different though. You hate them all, and there's some that you hate a little less. So, all right, Stephen Vogt's ready, manager of the year. We'll get to the trade Singer in India and Weimer from the other day a little bit later on, but let's talk to Mr. Vogt, the Cleveland Guardians skipper, next on FT. Do you know what Friday is?
It's
a time for shopping and
it's
other
Black
things,
Friday, yeah.
hanging out with the fam. But yeah, it's called Black Friday. So you guys know about what's going on with Manscaped, where you don't have to run around like a crazy person looking for a parking spot.
That helps
if
even
you're
more.
trying to get the beard nice and tight, and or you have a family member that you see at Thanksgiving and they're like, what have you been doing lately to look so beautiful on television?
It's the Chairman Pro.
It's got to be.
Look.
It's the Chairman Pro.
You got a nice little pop-up graphic. Yeah, it is the Chairman Pro. That's what we're the big fans of. That's what we all have, not just for daily shaves, powerful enough to tackle up to 5-day growth if you're really getting after it. For some people, that might be 7 to 10 if it grows a little slow. But either way, you can tidy it up. 75 minutes of runtime on a single charge. So if you're one of those people that forgets to charge pretty often, you can make it quite fast, or I would say quite long, without having to charge. Also, if you travel and you have a lot of issues, you got the little travel lock.
Button.
Yeah, which is definitely a problem for me because I'll just pack a bunch of things together.
Yeah,
and then you open up your bag and everything that had a battery is dead.
Yes.
So anyway, check it out. 2 interchangeable skin-safe blades for the real tight shave you're looking for, or if you like what really all of us are working with right now.
Well, he's a gray.
Scrub City.
And you don't want to you might make sure your beard is thicker because the way you're going to eat over the holidays, that double chin is going to keep coming out. You better block it. I can actually see it and smell it right now.
FT fam, foul 20 while they bicker at manscaped.com, 20% off plus free shipping with the code foul20, and you can get yourself 25% off from November 15th to December 4th. So that's right now for their Black Friday, Cyber Monday sale, and then back to 20% off from the 5th of December up until the 16th, and again from the 26th to the 29th. So all kinds of good discounts going on. Just hit the website, FOUL20. Be right back, FT fam, with Stephen Vogt, Cleveland Guardian skipper.
I'm going to need that.
Discount.
The whole package.
Whole package. You want to announce it? I mean, he heard it last week, but the American League Manager of the Year award goes to
my friend Stephen Vogt.
Yeah.
Good job, Stephen!
Congratulations!
Yay!
Yeah, it took you so many. Oh wait, it's his first year on the gig, and he already got it. That is impressive. Great to have you on, dude. Seriously though, congrats. How's the week been? Enjoying what you just went through, which you should.
Yeah, no, thank you guys. Thank you, Erik. I appreciate you announcing it for me. And no, it was a really cool honor. Obviously, you know, as it was alluded to, it is very much an organizational award. And I know that, you know, being in this position is something I'm super proud of and having a blast doing, but really cool recognition for what the work that our players and our staff did.
Voter, you know that like when we played and dudes were like having like years like Yelly and he was an MVP, you're like, man, I wonder when he's going to get called up to the next league. When are you going to get called up to the next league to coach and be a head coach of a team up there?
Hopefully never. I really love where I'm at, and obviously still have work to do. Man. There's a lot of people on our team that should get called up. You know, I think Jose Ramirez, Manuel Clase, and Cade Smith, they could definitely play in 5A. They'd survive up there.
Okay, good call. Way to coach them, though. You really coached your face off, especially since you guys made it all the way to the American League Championship Series. That was neat for you. Was that better managing or playing going through the playoffs?
It's a lot. There's a lot more pressure when you're playing. As a manager, you don't feel that pressure because at the end of the day, you're making decisions to put your guys into good positions. And so there's nothing that I can really go out and do. So it's just putting full trust into the players. And man, they had a great year, and we came up short from where we wanted to be, but it was so much fun watching those guys play all year long.
And that's funny that you say that, because a lot of people will say, man, coaching is a whole different ball game, and I'm nervous doing this and that. You know, you got to make the right calls, the arguments you got to make. You got to figure out what you're doing with the bullpen. So, again, I'm going to ask you, who had no nerves while you were coaching, or were there something going on in there?
There's a ton. You know, it's like a duck sitting on the top of the pond, you know. The legs are going like crazy on the inside. But, you know, honestly, there's different pressures that you feel. And I felt like going into the playoffs, the prep work that we put in ahead of time, you know, we didn't get caught off guard very often. We were prepared for everything. And, you know, you make some decisions and they work, and they're like, oh, look how smart he is. You make one decision, it doesn't work, and it's look how dumb he is. So you just have to trust the people around you and trust your process. And that's what we did all year long.
And you kind of alluded to this a little bit, talking about bringing some guys up or whatever it was, but to 5A now, I want to ask you a couple questions. What you guys think you need to improve on in the offseason so you guys can get over that hump? Is there some guys in the minor leagues, or do you see your team making a couple moves this offseason?
You know, I think obviously, you know, Chris Antonetti, Mike Chernoff, and Matt Foreman, they're some of the smartest people to do what they do, and they're always looking to make our team the best possible. So I'm sure we're talking and trying to make some moves, but at the end of the day, we love our roster and we got almost everybody coming back. We were able to sign Hedgie back, which was huge, because those backup catchers, Kratzy, can't just find them anywhere. They're special breeds. So, get that going. And then, for us, I think what it really is our starting pitching. I think, you look at our year and we had a number of guys just, for whatever reason, not have the year they were capable of. So for us, we're working really hard with our guys to have great winners to come into spring. And we're hoping everybody takes a step forward and we just build upon what we accomplished last year.
Don't talk about backup catchers like you know what that is. You're a starter. You're an all-star. You're going out on your own.
For 2 years, and then I'll be backup. Come on.
No. Look, they don't give all-star appearances out to backups, okay? But
okay.
I have to say you're an all-star person, whether you were a starter or you were a backup. Did you do as good this year in your first year managing as you thought you would? Because back in 2018, I'm going to give FT fans a little insight. Voter was hurt, like career-ending shoulder, and he didn't even have that great an arm before his shoulder surgery. And then when he hurt his arm, it was even worse. But it looked like you were going to be done. And you were going around, you had your notebook. You had your notebook that you were writing all your stuff down in. Then you go through your notebook as you almost got the job with the Giants, and then Bo Mel just absolutely undercut you. And then you get to go to the Guardians. And you're the manager of the Guardians, something that you had essentially been working for your entire career, but also like towards the end of your career. Did you do as good this year at what you wanted to accomplish as you thought you would?
That's a really good question. I'd say I came close. You never want to feel satisfied with the job you did. You never want to feel like I've got it figured out. I'm always trying to learn. And I think for me, the prep work that I put into this really was since 2009. And I really wanted to do this for a long time. I leaned on a lot of people in my life. I asked way more questions to every manager and coach I ever had than they probably wanted. I asked teammates questions. I asked front office. I just was curious to learn. And that continued this year. The Cleveland organization, and our coaching staff, I leaned on them a ton because I didn't know everything I was experiencing was for the first time. And so they helped me get through a lot of the tough things. And, really at the end of the day, the game was the fun part. The other stuff day to day, you're learning all the time about different things and learning your people. And so I would say I did close to as good as I wanted to do, but we didn't win that last game of the year, and that's really what the goal is.
Okay, that's the goal. So we're going to go to that. We watched, obviously we're close to Philly here in Jersey. We watched, Jeff Hoffman give runs up. We watched Matt Strahm give runs up. We watched Devin Williams give up a home run that ended up costing his team a chance to advance. You went to Emmanuel Clase, a guy who gave up, I think, 5 runs on the season. And he gave runs up. Now, when you get back, because that's your goal, you want to get back to the playoffs to make the World Series and eventually win, how do you keep that out of your mind? How do you keep that, okay, this guy was the most dominant reliever in the game this year, but I know what he did. I know what happened when old boy from Detroit that pulled his hamstring in the end, hit that dinger, and then and then Judge hit those home runs against them. How do you keep that out of your mind, and how do you build Class A up for next year?
I keep going back to one, baseball's hard. Everybody you're watching on TV drives a nice car. They're all really good at what they do. And for me, it's I don't care when it is, I don't care what the situation is. If there's 3 outs to get for a win or to extend the game, I want Mano Clase on the mound over anybody else. This guy's one of the best pitchers on the planet. He had his regular season was a dream. There was not one, maybe 2 times where it was high pressure. It was 9, 10, 11 pitch saves every night, it seemed like. And so you're going to give him the ball again. And I can't wait to give him the ball again next year if we're fortunate enough to get there. And it's one of those things where baseball's hard. Things happen. When you look back at his playoffs, the reality is he made a really good pitch to Judge, and Judge does what Judge does. And he hung 3 sliders. That's literally what happened. And that can happen to anybody. And when it's in a microscope like that, it's going to stand out. But Emmanuel Clase is going to get the ball in the ninth with the game on the line as long as we're together in Cleveland.
We're going to be real because we're friends. Well, we were friends until you became a manager, and then you stopped texting me on as quickly as I would like.
That's not true. That's not true.
You texted me, but as quickly as I would like. You take too long to get back to me, but I'm not going to air out my grievances here on TV, okay?
Bull.
You just did.
I just did. You're right. But you guys obviously didn't know that the guys you had in the bullpen were going to be as good as they were. To me, I believe that you put those guys in those situations, you guys as an organization, as a team, whatever, to have the season that you did. But you rode those things like a $2 horse, okay? You can't be going into next season saying, you know what we need? We need 3 of the top 5 appearance relievers out of the bullpen this year too. So what's the team's plan to not ride those guys quite so hard and to be able to still give them the opportunity to have the season that they had?
Yeah, I mean, you got to give all the credit to those guys. I mean, they had themselves prepared. Carl Willis, Joe Torres, Brad Goldberg, our pitching team did a phenomenal job of, getting them to be as efficient as possible. Our catchers did phenomenal. Bo, David Fry, and Hedgie just understood who they were. So, I mean, all the credit goes there. And, we were also careful with how we used them. They were throwing a lot, but we limited their pitch counts when we could. I as hard as it was, I'd sit on my hands from time to time when they weren't available as much as I wanted to throw them. But, we were pretty diligent to that. So, for me, what it is, again, is for us, it's our starters. Our starters are going to get better. They're going to work, and going deeper into games is going to save those innings. And, I think this year was a one-off as far as that goes. And I know that we have a great plan in place to help our guys, be the best versions of themselves.
Voter question from a fan, Donnie, asks for us to ask you about Fry and the time frame for him and what you see for 2025. Is he only going to be able to hit for the entire season and not play the field?
Yeah, right now that's kind of what the outlook looks like is I think it was 6 to 8 months he'll be able to hit, which probably puts us in May-ish. And then he probably will not be able to throw at all next year. So, we have to see it with any surgery. You have to kind of see how it goes and how his rehab's going. We're going to do what's best for David and his career first. And that I never shy away from that. The player and their career and their health will come over any win. I don't care what the situation is. But, for David, for him to do what he did this year, not being able to throw, playing first base every now and then and DH only, you go from catching 2-3 times a week to just being able to DH, you're going to go crazy. But for him, we just feel for him and his family just that he's going to miss a majority of next year, but we're hoping to get his bat back in the lineup as soon as possible.
I want to ask about another player of yours, a fan question from Jen Abbas. It talks about, since the holidays are coming up here, how big is Big Christmas? Okay.
This is one of the biggest human beings I've ever been around. I mean, he's such a gentle giant. That's why I love him. And, he brings a smile every day. He brings energy. He's running around the outfield and diving all over the place. And, it's so impressive to see him move that body the way he does. He can run, he can throw. He was a lot of fun. He brought a lot of energy to our team when he was fortunate enough to earn the call up, and obviously had the big swing in the playoffs and gave Cleveland fans a moment that I don't think any of us will ever forget. One of the best baseball games I've ever watched was Game 3 versus the Yankees, and he had one of the big blows in that game.
All right. Who's the MVP of this team, not named Jose Ramirez, in the lineup?
Oof.
You got to pick one of your favorite. I know which one of your kids is your favorite. You don't have to say that on here, but it's one of your kids on the team. Which one's your favorite?
Well, I'm not going to say he's my favorite, but if I have to pick an MVP not named Jose Ramirez, I'd probably go Stephen Kwan. Just with what he brought at the top of the order, the consistency and getting on base and being that spark plug. You're making me only pick one, which is really hard, but I'm going to stick to it because I'm a rule follower. No, Kwani showed some old school hitting where he could take whatever the pitcher gave him, and if he made a mistake, it was leaving the yard. And the season that he had was super impressive.
All right, so this is more of a personal question.
Oh.
Now that you're a manager, what type of manager exercise do you do? Are you the sweat it out on the elliptical? Do you get on the bike? Are you a walk around the park, get on the AirPods, or are you getting a little bench in? Are you getting, because I saw you in the uni and it looks like you have a girdle on, but I'm okay with that.
Wait, what?
What do you mean girdle? That's
You
maybe
have,
me
like-
just tucking it in.
Yeah,
You know,
you're tucking it in
No,
tight.
he's a double. He probably has like 2 or 3 layers.
No,
It's
no,
cold
no.
and
He's-
Well,
Cleveland.
here's what it is. Okay, I'm an Orange Theory fitness guy.
Oh.
Right. So I go for an hour, get some cardio, some weights, and I'm not allowed to have my phone, which means I'm off limits for an hour, which is huge. So I did that really well. And then, believe it or not, towards the end of the season, the playoffs, I put on a little freshman 10 to 15 with some stress eating. You know what I mean? So we're working hard to get that off right now. But yeah, Orange Theory Fitness. That's the cardio of choice.
The playoff pouch, the famous playoff pouch.
How many missed calls and texts you have after that hour workout? I'm sure you're like, back to the drawing board. Here we go. There's gotta be a lot.
Depends on the day. Depends on the day. There's
Depends on who it is, too. Antonetti's like 3 texts in a row. You haven't sent this guy down yet? What is your deal? Why have you not fired that guy? I don't care if we don't have enough time, voter. I got one more. How much did that suck? We've been fired, sent down, DFA'd so many different times, thought it was the end of your career. How much did that first one suck that you looked at the guy and you were like, gosh, darn it, I feel for this guy?
Yeah, I don't think that's ever going to get easy. Having gone through it, DFA'd 4 times, traded a number of times, just I've been through it. I know what it feels like, and just being brutally honest with somebody and telling them that, I don't know what's next for you. There were a number of times where the player would leave the room and I'd go have a nice little cry in the bathroom. And you never, ever want to lose the empathy and feeling that with the player, because it matters to me. It matters that this person's career is up in the air right now. And we know, Kratz, being on the other end of it, like, you're going to be fine. You're going to find another place. You're going to get another opportunity to earn a chance. But when you're going through in the moment, you feel for that player and you feel with them because they are part of your family, and it'll never get easy.
Yeah, it's a really good
tough.
Inside answer there, voter. Thanks for the time. Thanks for putting up really with Erik Kratz for 15 minutes. Really respect that a lot. You kind of took him away from me for 15 minutes, which is nice, like babysitting. But anyway, congratulations again, man, on the award, and we'll catch you again down the road, okay? Appreciate it.
Right. Sounds great. Good to catch up with you guys.
Happy Thanksgiving, you big turkey.
See you, voter. Appreciate you, man.
Yeah.
Stephen Vogt with us on FT, Manager of the Year in the American League, running the Cleveland Guardians, giving us some good insight there. Be right back. Where will Juan go?
I know where.
All right, I'm going through questions here about the Angels. Some people think an overpay for Kikuchi. I don't know. I mean, what? You wanted to do
That's
2
why I
years
asked. That's
instead
why I
of – the thing you have to keep in mind with free agency is if you go, oh, he should have gotten 2 years, 45, right? There might have been 3 teams that said that. So you're not going to win the player. So I actually don't feel like it was an
a team could have
overpay.
said
If they
3
believe
years
in him.
50, and the guy's like, all right, we wanted 3 years 60 or 80. Then they meet in the middle. There's all these different scenarios.
That's true.
That take place there, man.
Yep.
So overpay. Are you a fan? Did the person that said overpay, are they a fan of the Angels? Because if they're a fan of the Angels,
can't be a fan of the Angels.
right? And so if it's not your team,
or he can be,
buzz
and
off.
he's just
Some
better.
others
Like,
said
why-
Angels always seem to overpay. Some said Angels going for a veteran presence.
I mean, nothing wrong with that.
Ryan said if the A's add 1 or 2 real pitchers, I like them a lot better than the Angels.
If you believe in a guy and you think overpaying is what you should do, then do it, man. There's no rules.
Alex said, do you see them cutting Rendon as a team cancer? Call it a loss. Yeah, I've been calling for that for a while now.
Not yet.
They should have done that 2 years ago.
But,
They absolutely
they're
should
not
do
going to
that.
do
No.
it yet.
No, they're not going to do it, but should they? Of course they should do that.
But I
Yes.
think they have people in place. Ron Washington's going to shoot you straight.
Yeah, he's
Perry
riding the bench
came
and he'll
on the
get
show,
a bruise
yeah.
and then he'll be out again. It's I'm sorry.
Whoa, man.
Sorry, is that
Man,
too harsh?
I think
That was
it's
a little too harsh.
during
Okay,
the holiday
sorry.
season.
Yeah, for Thanksgiving,
Come
I feel
on,
like.
man.
But I always
You
believe
could've won
every
around that
player
a
can
different
have
way.
I
have
feel
an
for them on
upswing.
that one.
Yeah.
On
Hey,
that
listen, that's your hard feeling.
one.
I disagree. Now we're going to go back to being friends.
Thank you. Another person asked Bohm for Ward trade. I think you would need more on the Angels side to give up. Taylor Ward really had a rough second half. That seems to be the case often with him. He's gangbusters for the first couple months. Bohm's got value.
I think Bohm will fit anywhere.
He's going to cost you. I mean, that would be a great fit with the Angels, wouldn't it?
Yeah, but that's not.
Yes, they need that too.
Oh,
Why?
100%. Everybody
he's got
needs
slug, hit tool, the whole deal. He can handle
everybody
third.
needs 97 RBIs in back-to-back seasons. Everybody needs that. That's why I don't think the Phillies are like, we got to move
a little
them.
swag too.
Wait, here. Nando said Angels wrecked the mid-level pitching market with that horrible deal. I think most of those pitchers are going to get in the 20 range. I'm telling you.
Good.
Just telling you.
Good if they did. Good.
Yeah, it's better in their hands than the hands of the billionaires. So anyway, we'll be right back with some actual news on where the remaining teams are for Juan Soto bidding.
I actually sent this to AJ on Friday.
No, you didn't.
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
We should text him Happy Thanksgiving on Wednesday and be like, I made a video for you.
He was like, I wasn't supposed to see this at all today. I was like, well, we didn't play it on the show, so I wanted to make sure you got it.
We didn't do it on Friday, right?
We didn't.
No, we didn't. We took a day off, but we actually do have Soto news. And I love how I mentioned we were going to do this segment, and Paul in the chat goes, basically, hey, Scott, Juan's going to go to the highest bidder. Like, here's your breaking news. Okay. I got it.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. We are narrowing the list down to the teams that we expected a while back. So the latest is from Buster Olney, who says that the offers this week are coming through. Yes. And we've also heard that he's met with the Blue Jays, Dodgers, Mets, Red Sox, Yankees. Didn't hear about any others confirmed on meetings. Okay.
Everybody in the AL.
Now wipe all that off and let's go to Bobo Nightingale from USA Today. He said 4 teams are seriously in the mix for Juan Soto. If you were watching FT, we told you this 2 weeks ago. And really, we told you something else, which I'll reveal in a moment. But he said Yankees, Mets, Blue Jays, Red Sox. And I'm going to further that and say really 2 teams are in the mix for Juan Soto, which I've told you for the last 2 to 3 months. It's the Mets and the Yankees.
Oof.
Tell me I'm wrong.
You're wrong because there's one more team. The team that's winning the offseason right now is the Angels. Who says they're not going in?
We want people to tune in here to
get out
for
of here.
legitimate commentary about
you
baseball.
You're
tuned out.
All right, so
I was kidding, but anyway.
Does any of this mean anything to you? Actually, you know
what?
Yes,
no,
it does. For real?
It's great for the East Coast, for sure.
I don't see Judge's quotes.
I didn't see him, but I'm starting to read through them now. We can go over those. I mean,
should I add that? You got something
before we go to Judge's quotes?
Okay.
I do like this because as a player, as a generational signing that's going to be 26 the entire season, that has to be reminded. He's going to be 26 the entire season.
It's crazy.
He needs to be bid up. Bid up. The other teams need to bid him up so that the Yankees and Mets pay top dollar for him because he's going to set the market. And this is good that there's 4 teams. If there was only 2 teams the whole time and he's out of the market of everybody else, you don't ever get those extra dollars. You don't ever get $660 turning into $680. You don't get $520 turning into $570. So those teams need to be in. It's just like when you go to an auction. You can't very seldom do you just have 2 people that are just like, me. Yeah. Can I get a 600? Can I get a 610, 610, 615, 610, now 615, now 615.
Red Sox in the back saying they're in on Juan Soto, but they're stopping at 400.
100% they are, but
yeah,
they need to be in. They're doing their fan base and their opportunity to be successful in the American League East a disservice if they do not get in on this.
Mm-hmm. That's fine. It's cute. It's cute for the Blue Jays and the Red Sox. I'd be floored.
With what's going on,
borderline making a bet if one of those teams ends up getting him and the Yankees or Mets don't. I can't see that under any circumstance. The more I've talked to other people, behind the scenes. I'm like, no, sorry. But it is cute to have other teams involved.
With what's going on in New York in football, they need this guy to sign with some team as soon as possible.
That's why our ratings are up. People left. They left that train.
Oh my God,
that is a freaking mess. I have friends and fans of
Philadelphia's
Yanks
taken off.
and
Great.
Giants, friends and fans of Mets and Jets.
Oh, without a doubt.
And for the Mets Jets fans, they're like, I've signed off. I've divorced the Jets. I'm just following the Mets. Uncle Steve over Woody.
They're fighting for the first pick now.
Yeah. All right. So let me get 2 quotes out.
Get them.
Because Judge spoke after the MVP, a day later. First of all, he's talked to owner Hal Steinbrenner about Soto and other roster ideas, right? Cool. And then the quote about money, which is no surprise. He said, honestly, they said you care that he's going to get a bigger deal than you. He's like, honestly, it ain't my money. I really don't care as long as we get the best players. That's never been something on my mind. Who gets paid the most? Whatever we can do to get the best players, I'll take it. I'd love to hear a player one day. I mean, you're never going to get this answer. You want to hear a player one day go, no, I'm the best. I deserve the most. And they better not sign someone for more than me. First of all, no one would ever say that. And second of all, Aaron Judge does not care. He wants to win World Series titles. He's rich. He basically said, I'm super rich. I don't care if he's a little richer. I just want to win a World Series. Now, next quote is more interesting to me, and I want your takes here as the former players. Aaron Judge says he has not talked to Soto since the season ended. He wants to give him some space as he makes a life-changing decision. So here's the quote. I think the best thing is to really give those guys space. I talked to him all season. He knows how we feel about him. I think the most important thing is now letting him do his thing with his family, pray about it, talk with people, and come to the right decision for him and his family. So I haven't talked to him at all. Is that correct? Is that what you should do if there's so much on the line here?
It's like the total opposite of what they were doing in LA. They were bringing them some meetings. They brought – I forget what famous people came to some of the meetings for
Soto?
No, for
Ohtani.
Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah.
I mean, they should be smoozing, whining and dining him a little bit. They should bring Judge back into a meeting. They should do everything possible to get this guy to go to the Yankees, in my opinion. He's a generational talent, like you said. You saw what he did last year, and he's only 20. He's 26 years old. You got to do everything you can. All right, I'd be calling every day, hey, can we talk again? What do you got going on? Blah, blah, blah. Even if they're not saying nothing, but dude, we want him. Let's go. I'm not saying it's wrong what he's doing, but I think, I would do a little bit more. I would try at least once. I wouldn't berate him and hound him as much, but, he said the right things. But it's ever give him a text like, hey, Yankees? Or, like, hey, the boogie down still loves you, like something.
Sometimes a friend will say, you don't have to do that. You don't have to call. You don't have to do this, that. But if you do, it definitely isn't going to hurt. Right? I mean, sure, there's a line, but you don't think it helps a little bit for him to check in a couple times with a phone call or a text like he's saying and be like, dude, just reminding you, go get it, go get your money, but also I love you and I can't wait to hopefully play with you for the next 10 years, win 5 titles, and be legends together. How would that not make a little bit of an impact if the bidding ends up being close?
Maybe this is how Judge wanted to go about his free agency. He just went through free agency 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he was like, all I need is my family, my faith, and what else did he mention there?
My money.
And,
my money.
And money. Kidding, right. The money. And maybe that's how he wanted people to treat him when he was in free agency. I don't want to go too far into, like, maybe they didn't connect over the year. Like, if somebody's my boy, I am hounding him to stay with my team.
Sure.
I am hounding him to be like, hey, we can't screw this up. And sometimes when guys come over for 1 year, they don't always make that connection for one season. Obviously, I'm going so far into it here. I'm not, I could be stepping out of bounds by saying that, but I would like somebody to sell me on staying with a team. But I also don't think that's what he's looking for. I don't think that's what Juan's necessarily looking for. I think Juan's looking for the best chance to win with the most money.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it might not be in that order. And that's totally okay because he has already turned down a ton of money one time in his career.
And he's going to have a chance to win either way, right? With the Mets and the
Wherever
Yankees.
He goes.
Like the Yankees are good. Obviously, they've had way, way more history of winning, even in the recent past. But the Mets made it pretty far too last year, and they've got some promising players on their roster. So anyway, let's talk to Jacob Stallings on Catcher Day. I feel like Erik Kratz is running the show today. Get ready. Get ready.
Two Erik Kratz.
The hard-hitting questions for the great veteran catcher, Jacob Stallings of the Rockies. Up next. Still thinking about the Judge comment. Even for somebody that's more chill. No, see, I'm not a big bother you guy, all that, right? But I'd still do something. And I'd be calling the team too and be like, hey, what do we think is best here? I just don't see a scenario where they were like, here's the plan. Don't say a thing to him. No contact. Be like, if someone told me, I'd be like, why? I'd be like, nothing. Like, I get he's going through it, but I'd be like, not even just like a deep text, like one of those nice deep texts where you're just like, dude, just been thinking about this. I just went through what you went through a couple years ago. I get it to every extent. Just
if you got any questions,
if
you need me, hit me up. Just know we want you and love you.
That's it.
I want nothing more than you to be a Yankee. You need any help in any way? Be a Yankee for life with me. Gotta go. Bye.
Yeah. Like, I'm sure he said stuff to him during the year and all that, which is great, but recency bias. Did you call him? Because this is a massive decision for someone. And also, again, I agree with you guys. I think it's just Mets and Yanks. It's been like that the whole time. And let the best bid win. And he feels like, I'll be in New York. I'll make as much money as I can. And I'll be with a team that has a chance to win a title.
So which side do you think it lands on? Which side are you more – you think it lands on more? Judge is lying to us, and he definitely talked to him?
No.
Judge and Soto didn't really have that great a connection during the season.
Or there's a middle ground of they're just doing the wrong thing, and they should call him. Like, he's trying to be super respectful, and maybe he didn't want anyone to talk to him during his process, but everyone's different. And I think Juan Soto would appreciate a phone call.
He's had like 9 3-hour meetings.
No. I know. I'm saying maybe Judge didn't want people bothering him during his process. So he's maybe like, oh, well, I would have wanted just a clear head and to work with my family on this.
Not be distracted.
But it's like, but that's different, right? He met with everybody and had freaking long meetings. So I would have picked up the phone. I would have gone over there if I could and be like, yo, let's just have a time for 2 hours.
I'm in town. I was seeing a cousin. I'm actually in your yard right now. Just happen to be I'm knocking on your door.
See, I feel like that'd just be an epic dinner where those two are sitting down, they're having the best dinner, and they're just talking. He's like, I went through this. Yeah. Let's talk this out because I know what you're going through. And if you end up telling me at the end of the dinner, listen, they're going to offer me $50 million more and they deserve me more, then I'm okay with that. But I at least sat down with you and we connected.
And then if you hear that, you can go back to Yankees and be like, bro, listen, I don't mean to be that guy, but he's ready to go to the Mets already. Can we do anything?
Right. I agree.
Judge is part of the Stroman recruitment. Just saying.
Was he?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hey, we've got Jacob Stallings joining us, catcher for the Rockies, just signed back up with Colorado. What's up, Jacob? Great to have you on. You got me, you got Todd Father, and you got Kratz. How you doing, dude? How's the offseason?
Good. Everything's good. Just came to sit in my car and talk to you guys because we got Christmas music blaring and 3 boys running around crazy. So it wouldn't have been ideal conditions to come on, but doing well.
Nice. Well, are the Christmas presents like on a higher expectation level coming off the early signing, right? Like if you sign post-Christmas, it's like, well, guys, Dad doesn't have a job yet. No. And now they're all like, Dad, I saw the news. Yep.
Luckily, they aren't able to connect the dots like that. So it'll be a normal Christmas this year.
They know because the person that buys them the gifts, she knows the difference between a minor league, big league camp invite with a minor league deal and big-time show dollars that you're getting now.
We'll leave that to her. She runs the house anyway, so I'm just along for the ride.
There you go. Well, tell us how it went down, though. So you signed back up. Obviously, this is one of the earlier signings in the offseason, which is great. Colorado's done a couple other things since. They brought on Kyle Farmer, which we can ask you about as well. But what was the process like? Did you have a combo even at the end of the season, or it's just, a pretty quick call once we get through October?
No, it's it came together pretty quickly. I mean, I think both sides knew there was mutual interest there, and I really enjoyed my time there. I think that the team can take a big step forward this coming year. I think that we played a lot better baseball at the end of the year, and yeah, we just really enjoyed it and really enjoyed the people and the organization. So it came together pretty quickly. I mean, it leaked into the World Series, got over a little quicker than maybe some were anticipating, but so it leaked into free agency a little bit, but it came together pretty quickly.
Do you feel like you kind of are getting underpaid? That doesn't make you greedy because you wanted more, but if you really look at the value that you bring a team, because teams pay based on value, what you did last year, to me, I think 2.5 isn't enough. I know it's 2 with a $500,000 buyout, whatever. I don't think it's enough, but I would pay you way more than what you're getting. But how did that negotiation conversation go when you're at the table, when you're talking to other teams, hopefully? And, I just feel like you are underpaid at $2.5 million for 1 year.
No, I mean, I tried to go into the free agency with really no expectations.
Hey, we're back. All good. So, yeah, Jacob Stallings hung up on us. Actually, that's our bad. But we'll try and get him back pretty soon. But we'll get into the Rockies. And Kratz had this really beautiful monologue about how catchers are underpaid. And then
100%.
all of a sudden, the world ended.
Somebody higher up in MLB probably sent an
They
EMF
said,
to
Stop
our.
it, Kratz. You're not worth crap. All right,
You're
let's
not-
bring Stallings back, though. I think we have him back. So we're back with Jacob Stallings. Like once every blue moon, we have some crazy issue. And of course, it's when Kratz tries to get too cute and too lengthy with his questioning. So anyway, moving on, Jacob, I'm going to get you to the Rockies for a moment and ask you, you can go back later if you want. What changed towards the end of the year when you guys started picking up the pace again? Obviously, this team's been through some hard times for a minute. You've experienced that. So I've been around people that are like, hey, Jacob Stallings knows what that's like. I mean, you had some times with the Marlins, Pirates, etc., right, where they're going through it. So take me through the 2024 Rockies.
Yeah, I mean, we got off to a bad start. Senzatella and Marquez both had Tommy John, and we all know what they can do. I mean, they're super reliable, really good major league starting pitchers, and those are hard to come by. And but I think the biggest thing that happened for us at the end of the year was we called up like 4 or 5 bullpen arms um, that all did really well. I mean, it's crazy how good some of these guys are at such a young age. But that was the biggest difference for us. And, you kind of alluded to it. But in 2022, when I was with the Marlins, we lost a ton of close games, and we just weren't a very good team. Our record wasn't good. There was, a little drama in the clubhouse. But then that next year, we started winning all those close games. And, a big part of that was our bullpen. Andrew Nardi, Tanner Scott just stepped up and had unbelievable years. And it turned into a playoff appearance in 2023 where we won all those close games and we believed that we could do it. So, I think that the Rockies are capable of that as well. And, some of these young arms, hopefully they can stay healthy. But, I mean, there were some legit arms that we called up, so it's exciting.
You are the least dramatic person of all time. You are like, so when you say there's a little bit of drama in the clubhouse, let me know, because the Marlins, they're way down there. It's warm. You got dancers at the field. What was this drama that you speak of?
I think it's pretty well documented. I don't think I need to get into that, but no, it resolved itself, and it led to the most fun year of my career in 2023. So it was fun, man, and but it just goes to show, how important those close games are, and how important, a good bullpen is, because if you got a bullpen that can lock it down, especially in Coors Field where you just got all kinds of crazy things happening, um, it can lead to a pretty quick turnaround and in a big way.
Nothing like drama, man. There was no drama in Pittsburgh either when I was there. No, right?
Todd Tyler, man, no,
Good
not
to
at all.
see
You wouldn't allow that, would you? You just,
No.
you were the one that was getting everybody riled up, so it was all good.
You were the oldest one playing. So when they sent me down, you were the oldest one. I think you were 30 years old, and it was like, oh my God, like this was the team that had no 30-year-olds on the team. So that was crazy. How does it feel to be one of the older guys now in Colorado?
I really had that realization this year for the first time when Charlie was the only guy that was older than me on the team. And I just sat there, I looked around the club, I was like, man, I'm old. I'm old in baseball years. And so I don't know. I might be the oldest guy on the team now this year, but that's all
That's
right.
what I'm
I feel
saying.
young. I feel good. Came off a great year, so I'm enjoying it. So it's good.
Tell us about the great year. So, what led to it, and what do you feel like you want to try and just capture in a bottle and then replicate in 2025?
Yeah, I mean, I really took no off time in the off season last year. I pretty much got right down to hitting right away. Might have taken a week or two off. But really made some swing adjustments that I thought really helped me this year. Shortened my swing, just tried to be more compact. Luis Arias was a huge reason why. I mean, being around him in 2023 with the Marlins, and just hearing him talk about hitting and talking to him about hitting, and he's a unicorn with what he's able to do, just in terms of putting the bat on the ball and that type of thing. But I think that what is his absolutes with his swing and with his approach to hitting, I mean, was a big part of what I took over into my off season, into the season. But another big thing that I did, which I think was just as important as the swing adjustments, was I got into doing a lot of eye training, and eye exercises and eye strengthening, and trying to improve and keep my vision in a good spot. The Rockies brought in Ryan Harrison. He's one of the top eye guys in the country. His dad was like kind of the first guy that really went into the sports world with vision training. So I did my little assessment with him, and he told me my right eye would flutter when I would try to track you were on a little computer screen and a camera was tracking your eyes, but I was tracking this thing and my right eye would flutter when I was trying to track this quick moving ball. And he said, "Have you ever had a concussion?" And I said, "Well, yeah, my last one was in 2021. And he said, "Well, how have the last 2 years gone for you offensively?" And I said, "Well, now that you mention it, they haven't gone very well." But basically, the blows to the head kind of messed with my vision, and
Wow.
I did eye exercises and all through the year, and I think that was a huge part of me, having a career year at 34, and it wasn't like I was able to pick up spin better or anything like that, but everything was just kind of better. My eyes were stronger. I do these exercises, and at times I can feel the muscles in my head, like, you do curls, like you can feel the muscles kind of tighten. It's kind of how it felt when I would do some of these eye exercises. So, yeah, those were huge for me too.
You kind of put it on a tee for me here. 247 games at catcher without a passed ball. So those eye things must be working, because that is absolutely phenomenal. I feel like that alludes to Glenn Sherlock with all his drills he used to do with you with the Pirates. I mean, so things were working back in Pirates Day, as we can see as you move forward to different teams.
Yeah, I love Glenn. There's, you have teammates and coaches that you just bond with, and I mean, I can genuinely say that I have love in my heart for Glenn Sherlock. But yeah, I mean, those Pirates days I was having some fun, especially defensively in those days with Glenn and Jordan Comedina. So trying to get back to that a little bit this coming year. But yeah, it's just kind of it was crazy because in everyday life I wouldn't have noticed that my vision was messed up, or being affected by anything. But he picked it out right away, and it really I'm hoping that it changed the course of my career, but it certainly helped me this year.
So I had to make notes of all the just outlandish things that you said, and so now I'm going to rehash them. One, you couldn't do eye training when you were with the Pirates because Pirates wear eye patches, okay? Two, I know you don't do curls because I've seen your biceps.
I don't.
And it is
You're right.
not nice. You have no idea about curls for your eyelids, okay? And three, you talk about Luis Arias, that's exactly what I said. Luis Arias' WAR this year was 1. Yours was a 1.7. Higher in some metrics, but I'm just saying, so what I said about money before really does matter. But I'm going to bring it all back to the fact that your worst season was a season where you guys made the playoffs. Would you trade your best season when you got gold all over your Dick's Sporting Goods Rawlings gear? That's another story. You bought your gear at Dick's Sporting Goods when you got called up to the big leagues. That's a real story. But Would you trade your best season for another playoff season where you do awful and you have to find your own minor league job and your career is in flux?
Yeah, I mean, I tell people this a lot. 2023 was my worst year individually, but it was by far the most fun I've ever had on a baseball team, on a baseball field. Making the playoffs for the first time for me, and just kind of the whole season. I mean, we were just grinding the whole year to try and get in the playoffs. First time for the Marlins and a full season in 20 years. So, everybody obviously wanted it, and but by far the most fun year of my career. I mean, it was just so much fun. My boys were old enough to where, we'd win a big game and we'd watch the highlights on the MLB app the next day at breakfast, and just so much fun for my family. And then, we had such a great clubhouse, a great group of guys, and I would absolutely trade, a down year for me personally to go back to the playoffs and make a run. I mean, it was just, you guys know, I mean, you were a part of playoff runs and playoff teams, but it's just so much fun to win, and it just makes everything better. Even if you're playing terrible, like it just makes everything better. So I would absolutely trade it. Yes.
Does it suck that they didn't continue to build on that Marlins team? I know they weren't going to bring you back because, the season you had and everything, but does it suck that you guys had it built up to a playoff team, and if they added, who knows what they could have done? Instead, they started subtracting. They took years off of Skip's contract, so they kind of ran him out. Does that kind of burn as a player that goes out there every single day to grind to win baseball games?
Yeah, that was tough to swallow. Obviously Peter came in and he had a vision, and I'm not gonna say he's right or wrong by any stretch. I mean, he has a much clearer vision of the full picture. As players, we only see a certain, a certain lens of it, a certain percentage of it. But I think if Kim comes back, then we probably run it back and try to go at it again. But that's why I'm not an owner. I don't make those decisions. It was tough to swallow because we just had such a great group of guys, and it just was so much fun. And we really felt like we could have been a good team for years to come, especially with our young starting pitching. But that's the game, and who knows if I'm right or wrong, or if the Marlins people are right or wrong. But I think as a player, you always want to run it back with the guys that you go to battle with, because especially when it's as tight knit group as we had. I mean, it was just so much fun. But that's the business, and I think all of us have seen the business side of things and don't always understand it, but that's just the way it goes.
All right, I want to set the stage, and then you finish the story. What I had brought up before about you wearing Dick's Sporting Goods catching equipment. Normally as a catcher, you have some kind of contract. Even Bobo catchers like me, I had an all-star contract. So you're getting all-star catching gear for free pretty much your entire career. Not getting paid much money from it. Mm-hmm. But we're going to go back to 2016. You're hitting about 214 in AAA for Indianapolis Indians, AAA for the Pirates. You're 26 years old, and there's an absolute mash unit of catchers going down. Francisco Cervelli, Stewart's going down. They freaking traded for me, so they're scraping the bottom of the barrel. And you get called up to the big leagues, and your locker is right next to mine. And I was like, hey, your gear's kind of grinder. What you got there? You had some Rawlings gear. And it's not like I'm not trashing on Rawlings because you got a lifetime contract with the whole Gold Glove stuff. But can you tell us exactly like what you were doing and how you had to go and get a new set of gear? And I was like, you need to do what?
No. So first of all, well, yes, I'm not a gear guy. Okay, so I have no swag. Like I don't try to have swag because I know I have no swag. But I didn't have an agent at the time either. I mean, I was a senior sign. So there wasn't much negotiating going on in my signing bonus. It was either take it or leave it, basically. And like you said, I mean, I think there were like 5 injuries that
Oh
happened.
yeah.
Diaz got injured, Servey, Stu, they traded for you, but then so they call me the night before I come to Chicago to get called up and say, "Hey, I think you're gonna get called up." I can't. It might have been Servey going on the IL, but you were there, and so I'm like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so excited! I got to go back to the field to get my stuff." And and then they call me back as I'm on my way back to the field, and they said, "Well, actually, we might be acquiring someone, so just hold tight." So I wasn't very high on the list of options, obviously, but yeah, no, so I didn't have an agent, so I was getting my own gear, doing that whole thing. The only reason I was getting bats is because I had become pretty good friends with Travis Copley at Old Hickory, so that was the only reason I was getting any bats. But I wasn't on many prospect lists, so yeah, I was grinding, and um, you know, I was pretty fortunate to get that first opportunity in the big leagues with you, and um, a night I'll never forget on Sunday Night Baseball, ESPN, playing in Wrigley against the eventual World Series champion Cubs. So, um, I had bad gear, but this is a night I'll never forget for sure.
There you go.
This is when you say, "Look at me now."
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
Look at me now. That's
I've-
right. That's right.
That's right.
Hey, I knew him before you. I called his Cape League games.
Did you know that?
Out of Mays, baby.
I
Yep.
did. I was going to see if he remembered because I remember
Of course
that.
I remember. You kidding me? I saved
Yep.
that for the end. Yeah. I mean,
He's like
obviously,
Rain Man with that stuff. He remembers
Me?
everybody.
Who? Me or
You,
him?
you.
Me? Oh, yeah. I know that whole roster still. I did 2. You did 2 years, right? 2 seasons?
2 years. Yep.
Yeah, he did 2 seasons. Yeah. I mean, the first year there were some names you might know, including he was catching some Matt Harvey starts. Well, and you went to school with Matt too. So yeah, trust me.
Yep.
It's still here. We're talking to Whit tomorrow. Whit Merrifield, another Chatham from 2009.
Scott said
Boom.
you sucked back then too.
That's so
That's what he
rude.
said.
I
did.
He's not
Off
wrong.
the
He's
camera.
not wrong.
He did hit
He's
a
not
buck
wrong.
57 in 2009, which is the perfect time that when I haven't gone back in a while, but you tell someone when you're talking to someone like, hey, Whit Merrifield hit a buck 70 and Jacob Stallings hit a buck 57, whatever. Like, you're good. You're good. They're looking at more than your
You're
batting
Gucci,
average,
baby.
kids.
You're Gucci.
So he's the inspiration. Well, Jacob, good to reconnect, man. Great to have you on. Thanks for the time and
All right,
for putting
guys.
up with Kratz, as we tell all our guests. And enjoy the rest of the off season. All right.
I've been doing it for years. It's all good.
Yeah, save it.
Man. Thank you, Jacob. Appreciate you,
See you
man.
guys.
Happy
Have a
holidays.
good one.
See ya.
Yeah, you too.
Who needs this more? Steve Cohen's ability to flex his financial muscle, and if he doesn't get Juan Soto, well, maybe he doesn't really flex his. Or is Hal saying, we've been flexing our muscle for decades?
Yeah, no, I think Hal is feeling the pressure, and I think the Yankees need it more. Steve Cohen has definitely proved that he can flex it. He's done it. He got Verlander, he got Scherzer, he signed Lindor. I mean, there's been no shortage of Steve Cohen making his presence known since he owned the club a few years ago now. And I think Hal Steinbrenner understands that he needs to get this done. He had an interesting comment about, listen, I have ears. I know what's expected of me. And I think that's not something we would have heard from him maybe early on when he first took over from his dad, George Steinbrenner, to really being the chairman of this team. I think he's putting his foot down on a free agent outside of someone like Judge. The last time we saw Hal being this upfront about a deal, at least that he needed to get done, was Judge's free agency. Now we know, of course, they had a talk at the end that got the deal done. I think Hal coming in front of reporters, in front of cameras, saying he means it. He's going to go as far as he thinks he can take this Soto sweepstakes, even going as so far as say we have the ability to sign anyone, I think is really telling of just how important Hal Steinbrenner knows that he has to not only reach this deal to get Soto back. I think the other side of that, this reality where maybe they don't get it done and Soto goes to the Mets, is, I think, for the Yankees, it should be incomprehensible. The Mets signed Soto. Oh, no way they're getting Pete Alonso. I think no, they can definitely afford to do both. They're getting 150 million or so off the books this year. But even more than that, Steve Cohen has showed he's not afraid of the luxury tax. He's fine with surpassing it. He can kind of handle that burden. Draft picks is another issue now. Like, I think David Stern's kind of owning that front office will maybe talk some more money sense into decisions like that. But I think the Mets absolutely, after if they do get Soto, should then pivot to keeping Pete Alonso, not just for what it would mean for the team, but also Pete is right now being a little overlooked in these Juan Soto sweepstakes, right? He is one of those faces of the franchise alongside Francisco Lindor. He's really warmed himself up to the fan base, especially after that postseason run. They only even got so far as the NLCS because of what he did in Milwaukee with that huge home run in the ninth inning. So that changed, I think, the game, not just for Pete, the fan base, the Mets, all of the factors he needed on his side in a regular season. That was actually his down year.
Here we go. Sam Blum back on FT because the Angels are the movers and shakers right now of the offseason. Best coverage of the Angels. Check it out. He writes for The Athletic. Sam, great to have you back on. Thanks for the quick hop back on the show. How you doing? And what do you think of Kikuchi 3-year $63 million to the Angels?
Well, thank you so much for having me. Hopefully I don't have a cough, storm on
my
legs.
Remember the cough.
I forgot.
All good.
All right, you're on the hot seat. Let's do it.
Yeah. In terms of the deal, I mean, I don't dislike it. I think it's interesting because it could potentially maybe take them out of the running for some of the big name pitchers on the market currently. I think every Angels fan is looking at Max Fried as the name that they want just because he's a former Brave and they seem to just continuously acquire former Braves players. So yeah, I mean, I think it's fine. I think it makes them marginally better. He had a good end to the season. I mean, his overall career stats are nothing insanely good, but yeah, I mean, I think it makes sense to me. It's they needed another starting pitcher. I feel like just for Perry, like they need to be good this year, right? That's his mandate. So, unless they maybe improve 20 wins, I mean, I think that's kind of what the bar is in order to maybe keep ownership happy with where the trajectory of the team is for Minozzi, and he understands that. So he's making a lot of deals to kind of restructure the overall makeup of the roster, the culture of the roster. They look at Kikuchi, and even though he's going to be, I think, 35 next year in the middle of the season, this is someone that will, be a front end starter for them and, help them get some more wins. They are changing everything up in the hopes of really shaking up a 63 win roster. So will it work? I think with the Angels, I wouldn't be surprised if it absolutely does not work. But it's what it is, and I think probably marginally better today than they were yesterday.
Maybe that's why he wanted him for 3 years, 63, but then maybe that's just dumb by me. Either way, I think they're winning the offseason right now. I got to be honest with you. They are the bet. They've been picking up free agents. I've said it just a little bit ago, and Kratz might not agree. They could be the Kansas City Royals team of the West that just all of a sudden sparks up and gets going. Do you see them making any other moves? And if so, do you see them going quickly again with it, or are they going to take their time now?
I definitely think they'll make more moves. The thing I'll be curious about is the trade market in particular. I think that their top prospects are on the table to some extent. Now, I think that would require them getting a Crochet, a Vladdy's Jr., something like that, if they're going to trade a Christian Moore type player. But I think that's on the table to some extent. So I agree with you that there is a pathway for them to maybe they're trying to, build I think that Royals model. Now the Royals have, they got an insane season out of Salvador Perez, and they also have a generational superstar at shortstop. Neither of those things I think the Angels have right now. So, there are other factors that are kind of involved in it. I also think the Royals have a really well-rounded, operation to, that's something that the Angels are at least attempting to build right now more so than they have in the past. So that's why I would have liked to see them maybe be more focused on rebuilding this year or trying to, put their focus in acquiring young controllable prospects to the extent that they could. But, for now, I mean, yeah, I definitely think they'll still continue to be aggressive. I really do. I think, they could, look to trade guys like Tyler Anderson, Taylor Ward, maybe even Luis Rengifo, to some extent, although I'd be more surprised by Rengifo being dealt. But, I think anything with the Angels is on the table. We've seen it year after year. They continuously are, making noise with what they do, whether that be, putting 7 players on waivers or, calling up their top prospect after like 10 games in the minor leagues. Like they're always doing something to get your attention. They're just never winning baseball games. So until they do that, some of these things always just feel cosmetic to me.
Yeah, they've got a little Mets in them. Not this current Mets group, but the Wilpon Mets were like they'd always still be in the news. I mean, and they weren't winning, but they were in the news, right? We talk about them a lot on FT. So I got one follow-up for you on Kikuchi. Why do you think he's the one? Is it just, hey, he identified, this guy among a few other pitchers that they like, talking about Perry and the rest of the Angels crew behind the scenes? Do you think there's something about him, a quality that plays into what the Angels are really looking for? Of course, the Astros valued him very highly, and it worked out really wonderfully for them, right? You look back and you're like, damn, the Blue Jays were messing him up in the first half of the season, or they didn't have the right game plan. The Astros did. And to me, that's the second part of the question is, do the Angels have the staff behind the scenes to make sure he stays on that track? Because even something small like, oh, the Astros told me to work my fastball more in the zone. Obviously, there was the curveball slider pitch usage change that he made. But even the heater up in the zone, I was looking back at quotes, and it's like, well, dude, I'm sure they're not the first people to tell you that. And for some reason, the Astros are able to get to him. Can the Angels do the same?
Yeah, I think I think you kind of hit on the nail on the head with like the pitch usages. I mean, that clearly worked for him in Houston. So they probably feel like something's been unlocked to some extent, and that it will translate to with this 2025 team. And yeah, I mean, do they have the infrastructure pitching wise? I mean, they've really changed up what their pitching. Just the personnel, and whether that be the pitching coaches, their player development, their game plan. I mean, they just hired Sal Fasano as a pitching coach this offseason. It was obviously a long-time catcher. So, I mean, they're making some changes there. And I think that if they feel like they unlocked something with, his pitch usage that has worked for him, then that it's going to be able to translate at this level with the Angels. I'm sure that's what they're hoping for. And I'm sure that's what, they'll continue to do with him next season. Now, it's a small sample size of being really effective. Like the last 10 starts with Houston, like you said, I mean, they valued him really high. I think everybody was kind of criticizing that trade when it happened. As an overpay, but he ended up pitching really well, and the Astros kind of flamed out in the postseason. But it was at the end of the day not an awful deal. So, I mean, I agree that it's there is. I think that's kind of what they've pinpointed. We haven't talked with the front office yet about this, so I'm sure we'll do that when this is actually official. But it's I think that's probably the Angels have liked. If you look at some of the guys they've signed this year, like Kyle Hendricks had a really good end to the season. Jorge Soler had a pretty good end to the season. Like people that have just had a strong trajectory towards the end, towards the most recent time on the field. I think they like that. I think they feel like they can build on some of that. And they also kind of have to just like take a chance on certain players and hope it works out. I mean, that's kind of where they are with their budget. I think to some extent is, you're probably not going to sign a Corbin Burns. So if you can find someone in the aggregate like a Kikuchi who's pitched really well recently, and you hope can kind of bring that back and pitch 175, 200 innings for you next year. I mean, that's I think what they're hoping to do. So that's why he's the guy and not a top name.
Were you surprised that they let go of Patrick Sandoval? We had the non-tender deadline the other day, and I know he's coming back at some point, apparently maybe in the second half of this year, and so it would have been about 13, 14 mil over 2 years if they kept him for this run, and then hopefully a 26 healthy season coming off the Tommy John.
I was a little surprised but not shocked. I really think that 2025 is a very important year for this front office. So not that they're making decisions based on just the short term, but to some extent, I think that, that $6 million that they would have had to spend on a pitcher that really wasn't going to play this year, even if he were to come back in August, like you're talking about, 4 inning starts at max and, probably, not necessarily, it would be really for 26. And, even when he was been healthy recently, Patrick Sandoval's not been like that effective. So, I mean, I think that's the calculation. I mean, he needs to figure out he doesn't have a good fastball. Like, he's really good secondary pitches. Just the fastball is it needs to be a little better for that to really work. It was good in 2022, but, it's just struggled since then quite a bit. So, the question for him, if the Angels was, what's the value that you kind of put on him in 26? And I guess they kind of determined that it probably wasn't, $13-14 million, because that's basically what you'd have been paying for if you, were to tender him a contract this year. It's in a lot of ways. I mean, they're changing up the whole thing. I mean, like they like Griffin Canning go, like, they're making, like, Matt Dice is gone. Like there's a lot of guys that were kind of part of the fabric of the organization for a while that I think they're moving past them. Not to say that they were the reason this team was losing. But I think that Perry just feels like he wants to get his players in there, and he wants to get, guys that just mix things up. I mean, it hasn't worked, and so you need to make big changes. So I was a little surprised because I think that, at the end of the day, Sandoval has it in him to be a really good major league starter. I mean, we've seen it. We saw it at the World Baseball Classic. We saw it in, for the Angels. He's done it at the highest level, but it's not, it's not shocking that they would make this move now, just given the overall circumstances of where they're at.
And by the way, worth a mention, we're going to go over non-tenders later, but Cannon got non-tendered by the Braves. So it essentially was just a sale, right? They sold
money
to the Angels.
Yeah.
Which some people were speculating. I was wondering maybe if they were trying to work on, a deal, I don't know, with him behind the scenes and they just couldn't figure it out. But otherwise, it was just a money dump, which that's fine. If Soler works out, great for the Angels. They essentially gave up nothing. So my last question for you is, what would be the one thing that they need to nail after this, right? So they've done a lot of housekeeping already. Is it an infielder? Is it another starter to the rotation? What do you think's like the one clear-cut need where if we go through the rest of the offseason and they don't do something like this, you're going to be like, it's hard for me to see that everything works out and they're the 2025 Royals or the 2024 Royals in 25.
They have so many needs. I mean, overall, the funny things you can look at the Angels roster and you can pinpoint 9 players that fill out a pretty decent lineup, and even 5 starters that fill out a pretty decent rotation. But to me, I think that they need to figure out third base. That's just for the last 5 years that has been just kind of a black hole for them because of Rendon's injuries, and to me, whether is that putting Luis Rengifo there saying, hey, you're our third baseman? They need to have a third baseman going out of spring, and I don't think that person should be Rendon. It's just he hasn't performed enough and he hasn't been healthy enough. So what does that mean? Does that mean you sign somebody else? Does that mean you release Rendon from his contract and just eat the $76 million that he's going to be owed over the next 2 years? I don't know, but I think they need to come into third base and say, this is our guy at third. Last year they were trying with Sano and Rendon, and it was a bunch of different things, but I like the idea of having Luis Rengifo there if you're not going to make a big signing, and you can fill out the rest later. But they've had 30 different guys play third base over the last 5 years. It's been just horrible for them, and they need to figure that out. I don't think Bregman's the answer personally, because I think he could, not to say he's going to turn out to be Rendon, but his production has dropped a little bit in the last few years, and he's also I think 31 right now. So you'd be entering a stretch where he might be declining more, and you're paying him the most he's ever made in his career by a lot. So I think that I like Luis Rengifo there. I think if they're going to plant a third baseman there, it should be him, and and see where that takes them. But they need to figure that position out and kind of have it solidified.
So what you're saying is you don't like 30-year-old ball players?
As someone that just turned 31, I can't criticize anybody at that age.
Hey now. No, I'm kidding. My last question, we'll finish here. We'll talk about Mike Trout a little bit. Have you heard anything about him, how he's doing? And do you see him playing a full year this year? Or do you see something like, hey, man, we're going to give him a day off a week kind of deal? Have you heard anything about the MVP?
I think their plan is to kind of have him, do everything to some extent. I think they'll have him play some corner. I think he'll obviously DH a decent amount more than maybe he has. I don't, the concern with him DHing, I think for the front office is that he'll just he's kind of, if you ever met Mike, he's kind of bouncy, right? He can't just sit around in the dugout very much. So he'll just, their concern is that he'll just do too much in the cage, maybe, that it'll impact his swing. It'll impact his health potentially too if he's DHing. So I think they'll have him play some corner, and I think they'll have him play a little center. And definitely DH some, but that's when you sign Soler. You can't have him DH full time. That took that off the table. But they don't really have someone that's a clear cut center fielder either right now. So I'm sure that he'll play out there, and I'm sure he'll play some corner. But it's not going to be I don't think there's going to be a set position necessarily for him entering spring like they're always he kind of had, he's been the center fielder. I don't think that will be the case next year. There's still probably some to be determined, but that's not what I've kind of been led to believe. So. It'll be a bit of a mix, and as far as I've heard, he's back kind of healthy right now, and having a fairly normal offseason to for what he normally does.
I hope so. I was excited about that April, and then obviously got bit again. So Sam, awesome to have you back on, and I love the activity. I love it. It's better than us talking to you in February being like, oh, they didn't do anything. So I give them credit for that. They're trying.
Exactly. We'll see what happens. It's fun. I appreciate you having me on this.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you, Sam. Appreciate you, man. We'll talk soon, okay?
See you soon.
Check out Sam's work in The Athletic, please. He'll be all over this story. Here we go. BetMGM Angels win total since they're the team of the day. And this is the opening line from the offseason, 71.5. And then by the time we got to opening day, they were at 72.5.
Oh, boy.
I remember this conversation. You know where I went. I didn't think it was going to be crazy, but I was like, I'm taking the under. I felt very strongly about that. I was like, this is going to push 100 losses. They lost 99. You can look it up. There's Angels haters that love to come after me, but I was right. Ha ha. And I don't want to be right, but maybe this offseason starts to change things.
He doesn't want to be right, but it feels so wrong.
It feels so wrong.
I'm not going to lie to the people and be like, guys, I'll take the over on 72.5 last year when we did all our win total over unders. I was like, I'm sorry. I mean, I thought the Astros were going to be even better than they were in the regular season. They had the slow start. I thought the A's were going to be a little bit better. Took the over there. That worked out. The Mariners are the Mariners, frustratingly just missing. And, of course, I took the over on the Rangers. I thought that they were actually going to follow up, and the whole World Series hangover hits again. But that's what it looked like. Any thoughts? Quick?
If it's at the same again?
Yeah. It's going to be a little higher potentially.
Yeah.
With what they're doing right now.
Yep.
You're going to look more in like
I'll still take the under.
You're going to take the under?
I mean, if you're saying they got to win 73 games, teams that won under 73 games, the Nats, the Marlins, the Rockies, in the American League, the A's, the Angels, and the White Sox.
And it's going to tick a little higher. My guess is it's going to open at like 74.5-ish, 75 maybe.
I'll take under that.
You're taking the under?
If they improve 10 games, if they go up 71 games, to me, that's a great season. Sam said 20 more wins than last year. That's too much. You can't expect that in one season.
No. I mean, the Royals did it, but it was a different offseason.
I want to expect.
And they had Witt and Salvi and the whole deal. Okay. Hey, BetMGM Poker has been a very, very good friend of the FT fam. And they just merged their player pools in Michigan and New Jersey. So it's bigger prize pools, more players, and more chances to win. And there's a brand new nightly schedule with over $400,000 in guarantees each week. No better time to check out BetMGM Poker. And we'll announce our next big tournament coming up in January very, very soon on FT. Be right back to slice up the Reds-Royals trade that Ken Rosenthal scooped like a week before anyone else. Well, it's Sizzle Hot Corner time, so we'll start with the trade that we already covered quite a bit. It wasn't a done deal, and Ken Rosenthal and C. Trent Rosecrans didn't say it was, but they were on that over a week ago, and then you didn't really see anything, crickets, and then, of course, it pops up on Friday, which is when most things occur in Major League Baseball, Friday nights and
like
Saturday nights.
20 minutes after we leave.
Yeah. Can I soapbox it, actually, before we dive into the trade? I might as well.
You love your soaps.
So, well, you're a league. You want attention.
Yeah. All my children.
Right? Don't you? You want attention. You spend a lot of money on marketing the game and all of that. Why would you set a non-tender deadline for Friday evening? Like the calendar forces you to do that. And I get it. It's not like a fun deadline. A lot of guys get cut, but they get cut and they're going to be decent free agents that get signed. It's good conversation.
Yeah.
And it also usually leads to a couple deals, as in signings, trades, right? Trent Grisham got some money, and then Brady Singer for Joey Weimer and Jonathan India goes down. Do we need that on Friday evening heading into the football weekend, or could we have had that deadline on a Tuesday? Okay, I'm done. Anyway, what do we think about the trade?
I love it for both teams. And I don't think Major League Baseball really tries to advertise themselves, but we'll get into another. We're talking about the
That's
trade.
That's a 2-hour combo.
Yes, I think both sides are going to sit there and go, well, is this what we needed? Was this the best we could have gotten? The Reds needed innings. They're getting a very good starter. I think the Royals are going to sit there and go, I guess he's not as good as our top guys, but he's no Cole Reagans, he's no Seth Lugo, but I've kind of liked this guy. There's a couple Singer jerseys hanging around in Kansas City. He's a 3-WAR pitcher. And where are we going to get these innings from? Because he was eating innings for the Royals.
A lot.
With an under 4 ERA. So to me, I sit there and I go, who won this trade? You can never tell. But to me, they had a glaring need of somebody needing to get on base. And they got that in India. They don't strike out a lot. This team just did not strike out much. But they weren't getting on base. And I think Bobby Witt's like slug in his first at bat was something like 806. Mm-hmm. Jonathan India, when he got moved to much like Gleyber Torres, got moved to the leadoff position, and he just excelled. I think he's got like a 376 or 380 on base percentage. That just equals more runs when Bobby Witt is just coming out of the chute, swinging, getting stuff going. So to me, I think it's great. They've been trying to trade Jonathan India for 2 years now.
They have.
Now I was going to piggyback off that. Like, he's been up and down. Like, where am I going? Am I going to start? Is there a position for me? We have these young guys coming in, and he's been doing it with great attitude, with great determination, and he's been professional through the whole thing. So I think he's probably like, all right, you know what? After all the years I've had it, maybe it is time to move on now, and I can breathe a little bit and try and get these Royals over the hump. And I think it's a really good spot for him.
Who gets into the playoffs first? Who gets deeper into the playoffs?
Who gets in or who gets deeper?
Who gets deeper? Jonathan India now or Brady Singer?
Man, dude, if the Reds are healthy, they got a good pitching staff. I'm going with the Red Legs because they're all going to be healthy.
A lot of us were choosing the Reds to make a splash in the Central.
Yeah.
Last year.
Mm-hmm. No, great. No.
Now they've downgraded some of their offense, which getting rid of India's bat.
I agree, but the problem was
putting McClain back in.
They didn't have Matt McClain last year. And if he's good, and we talked to him recently, and by the way, we're talking to Brady Singer on Wednesday's Foul Territory, so we'll ask him about the trade too. But McClain, second base. Krishnan Encarnacion Strand didn't play much this past year either. He was hurt a lot. So you're assuming that he's going to be back in the mix and playing a little bit better. So there's been a logjam there. Some of it was created by their own doing. Again, I kind of smashed the Jamer Candelario deal. There was a Noel V. Marte suspension stuck in there, but still, it's not looking like a great and a needed move for them, but they did it. So that, again, creates this logjam where, Jonathan India's floating. And it's good to have a utility guy, but he's going to be way happier now, just locked into a spot. Now, is he playing over Massey? Because remember, we had that discussion too. So you just plug him in at second, right? Because he's not going to super utility on the Royals. There's a little more firmness with that roster, and you're not putting him in the outfield. So I don't know if does Massey become more of a utility guy
piece
or a trade piece? But India should be starting second base, lead off every day. Let Bobby go next, especially if he's getting on base 36% of the time. Good, done. You handled one of the massive issues that you had as an offense. On the Brady Singer side, Keith Law was on with us the other day, remember? He said there's some concern in his mind with that ballpark because Singer is someone who gets smashed by left-handed hitters. We know how that ballpark plays, especially for left-handed hitters. Now, Singer's also a guy who gets ground balls when he's rolling, so you can make that case. But do you think it could be a problem ballpark for him?
I mean, it's a problem ballpark for any pitcher.
Yeah.
If you want the truth.
Well, Hunter Green's like, well, screw it. I'll strike everyone out.
No,
then
but
it's less of a problem.
It's true, but he's given up his fair share of home runs. So
yep.
If you're going to look at it like that, nobody should go to Cincinnati then. I mean, if you want the truth. You're a professional pitcher. You're going to give up home runs, and I wouldn't look too much into it like that. Keith Law's good at diving into stuff like that, but pitchers are going to pitch, and he's going to give up his fair share of home runs. That's it.
Yep.
If you could have a 4 ERA, I would take it. If he could figure out a way to do that.
In Great American Small Park, for sure.
Don't say that.
I think,
you go from Kansas City.
You know how hard it was to hit a home run?
That's the biggest thing.
Sure.
That's a big change. You're going from
huge change.
What, a top 3 pitchers park to a bottom 3 pitchers park. That is what it is.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. And you had Bobby Witt strolling at shortstop. You had some dudes. That outfield is built to run after baseballs, and dudes ran after baseballs. Cincy is tough, except his walks are down. So I like that. His walks are rated where I think he's at like a 2.3 per 9 innings. You don't want more than that.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to give up home runs. That's okay. If you give up solo shots, that is great. Even the best pitchers in the game every year give up the most home runs. Max Scherzer in his Cy Young years gives up 32, 35 home runs.
Yep.
They're all solo Johns.
Yep.
So that's where Brady Singer has to make sure he sticks to the game plan, and he is going to a pitching coach. Nothing against the Royals pitching coach. Nothing at all. Derek Johnson, DJ, is one of the best pitching coaches in the game in Cincy, and you've seen what he's done with that pitching staff. Now he's getting a guy who's coming in has been healthy, made 32 starts. DJ is going to be like, why are you pitching every 5 days? Most of my guys are only pitching 20 to 25 starts a season.
Yeah.
This is a luxury that they haven't had, and I think it's going to work out really well for them.
Mm-hmm. It's a young staff.
Guys too.
It does. And it's a young staff. I mean, Rhett Lauder's fresh in the bigs. Andrew Abbott's what now, 2 years in?
Mm-hmm.
2 or 3?
2.5
Hunter
years
Green's a few years in.
Lodolo's
young.
I'll make
and
sure
he
we
hasn't stayed
tell
on the
Brady
field.
that you think he's old, but when he comes on.
How old is he?
What do you think?
30.
30? Yeah.
28.
28.
28.
Oh, wow.
I'll just
He's
make
young,
sure.
too.
I'll just make sure. He's kind of a reserved kind of guy.
Don't do that. Let him
Those
be.
Florida guys, they age
No,
differently.
I'll take
He's a
it.
Florida guy now.
Hunter
Yeah,
Green's
you're right.
25. Is there anybody I'm missing? I mean, besides Nick Martinez, obviously, he's in the Stone Age. But anybody else on that? I'm looking. No, everybody else is young.
Abbott,
I don't think anybody's close to his
Green.
age. I mean,
Singer. I like it. I like the ring it had. If everybody's healthy, I like their pitching
everyone else
staff.
is like 26 and under. So Singer's, he's getting a little up there. We'll let him know. Let him know on Wednesday. But
You're funny.
let's get to the Dodgers talking to Tommy Edman. Just wanted to sneak this in there about an extension.
Nice.
Obviously, that makes sense. I think Tommy probably is all in on this too. Like,
Why
dude,
wouldn't you be?
They love you. You were a legend in the postseason, and you get to play with that cast for a while. They're going to bounce you around. Like, I know now they're going to put him back in center field, but that could change 20 times with injuries. But that's why they love you. And the one article I read said maybe it's a Chris Taylor deal. 4 years, 60 on an extension after whatever he's got this year. So maybe it's technically 5 if they get it done before that. But Chris Taylor signed a 4 year, 60 with a club option. So is he their next Chris Taylor? Different player, but
Different
similar
player,
role.
But okay. Different player, similar role, kind of locked into the right-handed, though, with Chris Taylor. To me, I'm going to, and I'm trying to pull it up exactly what he got.
Who you got for me?
I'm going to what old Ben Zobrist signed with the Cubs. I know that was free agency, but we're talking like a 4 years, looks like a 60, 50-something.
Okay.
Younger. So you can give me 6. You can give me 6 years because he was younger than what Zobrist was, and he gives them so much utility. Like, to me, if you're Tommy Edman, you're going into this, you still have time left on your contract. You don't need to take a club-friendly deal. The Dodgers are giving you market value, and I think his value is through the roof because they don't have who's a better super utility than him in the game as a switch hitter.
I'd have to think about that, but
Yeah, agreed. He's very good.
maybe I was going to say Willie Castro.
Not as
No, I still think Edman.
Yeah,
I
but
mean,
good, especially if he replicates what he did this past year. Castro was really good. He was an all-star.
he was.
Yeah, but
He was.
it took me 10 seconds. So anyway, all right, we'll step aside. Good call, and we'll go over some of the non-tender cuts from Friday. So Jordan Romano is a free agent now. Kyle Finnegan, some of these other dudes that got cut loose, and then MLB is limiting their international games, but there's reasoning behind it. So what do we think about Bregman to third for the Tigers? I know they have Jace Young. He could bounce around a little bit. Also could serve as some trade bait for the Tigers if they are going to go that route. But either way, I don't feel like there's such a logjam yet of position players that they couldn't fit one guy. And to me, Bregman is kind of the opposite of Baez. Baez comes in, does his own thing. That was a bust of a signing. There's no doubt about that, right? And it's an infielder that they thought was going to lead the next great Tigers team. Bregman's what they were looking for. He's the guy behind the scenes who is a scouting monster. He makes sure every single player knows exactly what they're doing for that particular game, and he makes everyone around him better. And that's just not Javi Baez. He's quiet, he's going in, he's doing his thing, and he's going home.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. I think Kratzy hit on it earlier in the segment. He is also a playoff menace. We're talking about dude who, when the light is the brightest, he comes through and he shines. So I think when you have that type of pedigree, that type of leadership, his will to win, I think is as big as anybody's in the game. And I think with all that's went on in his career, I think he still plays with a huge chip on his shoulder to prove that, listen, I am one of the best third basemen in the game right now. And I think when you pair that with the young talent that they have, I've been in the clubhouse with Alex Bregman. One thing that he does, and I think a lot of young guys don't know how to do, is value what it takes to get a win in the big leagues, right? You know, a lot of times you win games and guys come in, they hit the shower, they're in, they're out. One thing that I learned early on playing with Alex Bregman is he's going to make sure when you win a ball game, you come in, you sit around, you talk about it, you acknowledge guys that came through that night. You really start to appreciate what it takes to win as a team. And I think the Astros with A.J. Hinch are already so close. When you pair these two back together, their will to win and be great, I think it's something that the Tigers is desperately missing. I think Alex Bregman would be a great fit. You know, I'm just going to throw it out there. J.D. Martinez may be in a DH role for a year. I don't know, but Alex Bregman, I think, would be the perfect fit. And I think the city, the fans of Detroit, would love a guy like Alex Bregman, the way he plays, his ability to be available. I think the Tigers fans would really appreciate and give him the love that I think he needs going from the Astros to a different team.
Next time, actually, we should probably just show Kratz for that.
That song gets me hyped montage every time.
I know.
If you don't move your body to it, it's kind of like, where are you?
Yeah, like what's wrong with you? So I got two things on the agenda, some other little transactions, and then we'll get to what Manfred said about the league kind of getting rid of some of their international games for next year. So let's start with this. First off, Kyle Farmer signed a contract with the Rockies. That's so Rockies, and it's nothing against Kyle. He's a good player. He finished pretty strong last year, too. 1 year, a little over $3 million. Plug him in, basically to replace Brendan Rodgers, who they cut at the non-tender deadline. Rodgers was a high first-round pick. Just never really panned out, had a lot of injuries.
Number one player out of high school in the country.
Oh, yeah.
Back a
big
few
name.
Years ago.
Yeah, big name. Big fantasy player disappointment for me over the years. But, you know, you plug that kind of high school talent into Colorado, I'm like, oh, this guy's going to be huge. But anyway, Farmer replaces him. Good for them. Rockies doing, you know, their Rocky thing. But did you see all these other non-tenders? So I want to start with what I think is the headline. Kyle Finnegan was an all-star this past season, and he definitely fell off in the second half of the season. And if you love deep peripheral numbers on pitching stats, he is not the sexiest name, but he racked up 38 saves for the Nationals. They didn't trade him in July, so you figure, okay, they're going to keep him for one more year. He would have probably made $8 to $9 million in arbitration. They cut him. So I'm not going to debate why you cut him, because if you don't believe he's worth that in arbitration, which favors saves, okay, then why didn't you trade him? Because when you cut him, you send a message to the rest of the league that he's not worth that, and maybe you know something that they don't. And you could have dealt him in July and actually gotten something back for him, and he maybe could have performed like a G in the playoffs. So I'm just like, why you got to do that to him? And also, you're the Nats. He's been talked about for 2 years in trade rumors, and they never pulled the trigger. That one bothers me.
People need to understand that they got nothing for him. When you don't tender somebody a contract, they get nothing.
Yep.
So even if you were like, that is a brutal trade offer, you got something. You got something for a guy that had 38 saves. He's closing in on 100 saves in his career. You watch this guy pitch, talking to guys from inside the organization that watch him every single day. He is a gamer. He is a beast. Closing games, while people say it doesn't matter, all this stuff, you can pitch any inning. This dude would pitch any inning, and this guy will give you everything he has. I saw him throw some high pitch count innings and come out the next day and throw again.
He can do it.
He is a guy. People are going to look at it and say the peripherals. He's 3-8 was his record. So what? That's
not the peripheral. I mean, you're looking at hard hit and barrel percentage and all that kind of stuff. And it was low. I mean, he was 2 percentile in hard hit percentage, meaning there was a lot of hard contact. I mean, this is a guy he's got a big fastball, right? He averages about 97 this past season, but people were hitting the ball hard. But I feel like he executes and hits his spots. And you look, and every year it's a mid-3s ERA.
I'm telling you, he's a gamer, dog. I mean,
I don't want him as your closer, okay, but he can pitch.
But he's an all-star. I mean, I'd be salivating over a guy like this. I mean, how many guys could use this guy in the bullpen? A lot.
He was rumored during the trade deadline last year because everybody's looking to upgrade their bullpen. And I thought, outside of like a Helsley, who I don't think the Cardinals wanted to trade, he was one of the best available bullpen pieces.
They took him off the market, essentially, is what I heard, right? And then so we're like, okay, they're waiting for next year. They want to have one more year with him because they think they might be a fringe playoff team in 2025. I mean, I'm just thinking back to how many teams, the Mets, man, they needed bullpen depth. Ooh. Kyle Finnegan in their bullpen,
I agree.
He would have been top 3 in their circle of trust. And that's one example. There's plenty of others. I don't get that one, but the Braves non-tendered Ramon Laureano. They're fiddling with some cash, trying to hang around the luxury tax number and spend it elsewhere. Okay, Griffin Canning, who was part of the Soler deal. So that ends up just being, here's Soler and his contract, and that's fine. I mean, I think that's what they were expecting to an extent.
I think so.
Yeah. Jordan Romano, homegrown Canadian dude with the Jays, just had a lot of injuries, didn't pitch that much this past season. Okay. Other names that stood out, Dylan Carlson, Pirates, Connor Joe, Brian De La Cruz, who they acquired at the trade deadline. I'm sorry, I could go all day on the Pirates mishaps. That's just, what are we doing? What are we doing there? Who else we got? The Yankees non-tender John Birdie, Tim Meza. They bring Trent Grisham back. Cal Quantrill and Brendan Rodgers I mentioned for the Rockies. So anyway, just some notable moves that were made if you might have missed them, because I know some people listen to us as like their primary news source. So I wanted to make sure I get that in for some of you that say, hey, this is where I go 2 hours every day. All right, let's hit Rob Manfred's comments for the next few minutes.
Yeah, that's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
That's what he said.
MLB is playing ball in Tokyo to start the season, Cubs and Dodgers, but they also had potential Mexico City and San Juan, Puerto Rico games lined up. That's all gone. Manfred said, we're not going to San Juan. We did not have, despite a lot of efforts, an arrangement that made economic sense for us. We'd like to do San Juan, and what's available kind of changes year to year. I hope it works out in the future. I'm sure we'll be back to Mexico City during the term of this agreement. We had a really, really aggressive international play undertaking last season. Obviously, we're opening in Tokyo. That's our focus right now for very, very good business reasons. And also remember, we found out several months ago that they banked the Paris games because no promoter was offering MLB enough money for all of this. So this is the business side of things. MLB essentially, in my mind, in my smaller brain capacity, says, hey, how much does someone want to throw at us to go play somewhere? And they're not getting the number they want. So should they be a little bit nicer on the number so that we can spread the game internationally? Or they just hold their number, they're businessmen, and they say, screw it, we won't play there. Because that's what they do with teams now. Hey, Oakland, you're not going to give us the situation we want. We gone. Arizona, fix our ballpark, or we gone. Yeah, there's a lot of that going on. That's how the group operates. It's the fraternity. But is that smart? Because other leagues play a lot more internationally, and this is in the collective bargaining agreement with players, and players love doing it.
They love doing it. They love the fact that we're going to Bristol to play in a
That's cool.
NASCAR track. Like, that's pretty cool. But because that's unique. That's the stuff that, like, people want. I want to tune into that. Like, I want to see how they're going to build that in the track. I want to see Mexico City. Mexico City wants to see them. And I think the toughest people in business negotiations are people with a lot of money. So if teams cry poor, which they do every single year at different opportune times, that when you're in negotiations, you're sitting there going, we're rich. We're not folding to what you think we should get paid. You should pay us to bring our product.
They have leverage.
They have so much leverage.
But they also don't, because the city can just be like, well, sorry, there's nobody that's going to pay you $50 million to come to this city for 2 games. We just can't do it. And then you don't end up having games. Like, should they take 30? And again, I'm making up numbers.
Yeah.
But
No,
like,
it's the last line. Its focus right now is on Tokyo for very, very good business reasons.
Yeah. Do you ever hear about other leagues doing this? Or does it feel weird that MLB had now 3 out of 4 series canceled for 2025 because they're not getting enough money? Doesn't that make us look smaller as a league?
Yeah.
Now, to me, if they're losing money, okay. Even then, though, why does the NFL go to the places that they go? Because they want to grow the game in that country, in that city, in that continent, wherever they're going. We have to be willing to do that. It can't just be, well, how much are you going to pay me?
Yeah.
We have to be able to know that we're getting it on the back end. If we like the fact that we haven't had a game in the cities that the NFL has had games, we need it.
Yeah, we'll continue this on YouTube in a sec. TV people, we'll see you tomorrow. I got lost in Kratz's answer and looked up, and I'm like, oh,
gotta go.
TV's leaving, but we're still here for the YouTube fam for a few minutes, and then Dodgers territory at 3:00 Eastern time, and then I'll be back on Hot Sheet Baseball America 3:30 Eastern time on the Baseball America YouTube channel. If you want to catch us there, somebody the other day was like, "You guys should do more prospect stuff." I'm like, "We do every week. It's called Hot
It's
Sheet."
a whole show.
Yeah, it's a whole show. We talk a little prospects here, but we talk a lot of prospects there. We're going to talk about Roki Sasaki for any Dodger fans out there, or just fans of any other team where you think you might get him. So anyway, just to complete the thought there, you schedule something, you tell people something's going to happen, and then you start banging all these things for money reasons. I just feel like it makes our league look pedestrian. We've got 2 now situations in minor league parks next year. I just don't see this from the NBA and NFL, and that's why I always try to make comps.
They don't look outside the box.
Do you think that our league accepts things that are more amateur, like decisions, announcements, PR, that shouldn't come through?
Accepts things, or is I guess it would be accepting things because they're
someone could have stopped
it's
that.
The same. They don't have a diverse think group because they're never ahead of things. They're always it's all the same group of dudes that are all doing the same thing.
You say, what did your dad do? Oh,
right.
He invented this. Cool.
That's neat.
Not everybody. There's some self-made superstars. You know who you are, but I don't understand
feel like
that.
they just don't want to be one up by somebody. I don't know.
Wouldn't you be if this is you and you own a piece of some prime real estate like this league? Don't you just want to be a baller?
They never want to miss. No. That's where it comes down. They never want to swing and miss
financially. Because it wouldn't be a swing and a miss.
Or somebody getting over the top
games,
of them. Yeah,
right, but we played games in Puerto Rico, and they're awesome.
Awesome.
It's not going to be a miss. I mean, if there's another concern, they would have said something, right? Like, hey, we've got a ballpark issue that's got to get renovated, whatever. Okay. Field of Dreams had that. Okay. But for this, if they're just like, it's for money, I'm like, ugh.
If it's really about money, just remember San Juan was through some crap.
Yep.
Through that hurricane, they got hit. So maybe let's give back to a country, an area that has given us so many players.
Correct. And we draft there, so they don't even get the international money, too. Anyway, we're off our pedestal, but hope you had fun today. Tuesday and Wednesday has some pretty big time guests, including Brady Singer is going to join us. A few others that I'll reveal tomorrow. But see you on Tuesday. FT Fam and Dodgers territory right now. Oh, I forgot about your hat, and it looks good. They were playing me off like I was at an award show.
It hurt my head the whole time to wear anyway.
Did you?
Well, I mean, you got it on the left wing.